Our friend and co-host, Paul Parkey, better known as Paul's Ego, is well known among our audience as a lovably grumpy ball of salt. But did you know that he comes from a long line of prestigious great men who forever changed the course of history? After an exhaustive and ongoing investigation into the Parkey family's history, Paul's ancestry gets deep, fact, fried.
Deep Fat Fried!
Hi everyone, it's your old pal Mickey here with a direct order. I mean an option that you are strongly encouraged to take advantage of. You will click the link below. You will subscribe to the Pessimist Productions Patreon. I mean, if you wanna, wink wink, there's more content there than, well, you could swing a dead toddler at. Exclusive shows, exclusive streams, hours of exclusive content. Why aren't you clicking? Why aren't you subscribing to the Pessimist Productions Patreon? You're making Mickey sad.
You must be pretty excited right now, Paul, right?
The Parkey Clan.
The Parkey clan. Parkeys throughout the ages.
Yeah, Paul.
What have they accomplished? What
Lots.
have they done?
Lots.
I mean, you know that, right?
Well, you're about to find out, Paul. I mean, unless you know some of your family history, but I think.
Paul, how much do you know about your family history going into this?
Oh, a whole bunch, man.
You do? Yeah, so maybe you can help fucking clarify some stuff. Tell me what the research team got right, the research team got wrong, you know, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So the first Parkey I want to talk about is, and obviously this is an artist representation. This is Thag Parkey.
Yes. Okay.
Uncanny.
Yeah. He existed.
Yes, this is definitely Thag Parkey. We had several prominent paleontologists, anthropologists. I'll take a look at this rendering here, Paul. And they all agree.
I've never seen
accurate.
a sketch of my distant relative Thag.
They've
but this is
actually
perfect.
matched these to a certain cave drawings. You know those caves they have in France? Like, this actually been matched very intensively to
Thag Parkey lived around 10,000 BCE.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he was an inventor. Now, there was a lot of people who were inventing stuff back then because, of course, you know, nothing had been invented yet. So
early human civilization.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for inventors back in those days. So not much is known about Thag Parkey. His life, of course, predates the invention of written language by thousands of years. What little we do know has been meticulously cobbled together by some of the foremost researchers of our time, like Dr. Lucius Crenshaw, director of anthropology at the Fillmore University of Cultural Knowledge.
Fillmore. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Fillmore University of Cultural Knowledge. Thag Parkey is one of the earliest examples of the creative power of the human imagination, Dr. Crenshaw told the Washington Post in 2017. He invented not only the beanbag chair and the first rudimentary bong, but we believe that certain of his proclivities might have also inspired the women of his tribe to invent the rape whistle as well. So,
come on now. That's
hey, look.
This is Dr. Crenshaw here.
I mean, this is Dr. Crenshaw talking right there.
that doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
The guy that invented the bong was a raper? Come on.
I mean, it never said outright. I mean, like, look, rape was not as big a deal back in those times. It was the caveman days.
Maybe the rape whistle was an idea of his, and he invented it to help women to not be raped by other.
Right. I mean, you know, there is anthropological evidence that in some way, you know, his existence kind of predicated.
I like
the rape
how it was
whistle,
a Parkey
but,
that invented the potentially the bong and way to sit around.
Well, so this is obviously this is not the beanbag chair that he invented, but this is a contemporary recreation of what archaeologists believe the first beanbag chair, you know, may have looked like.
An animal skin. Yeah.
So the bag itself was fashioned out of saber-toothed tiger pelts. There is some dispute as to what sort of beans filled the chair, with some researchers speculating that it wasn't filled with beans at all, but with seeds meticulously sifted from bird shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Clever.
So Thag's motive in creating the beanbag chair is hotly debated issue in many academic circles. So, and maybe Paul, this is where you could maybe shed some light. Like, you get me in the Parky mindset, and so you figure out which one of these things is true. Okay. So one theory states that Thag Parky, like many others in the Parky line, suffered from a genetic condition known as noacetol disease.
Heard of this.
You heard of that one?
Yeah.
As a result, he was uncomfortable sitting on boulders or on hard cave floors. Necessity being the mother of invention, he created the soft and pliant beanbag chair to furnish himself with adequate cushioning. Because basically, he has no ass. It's what you would
No
say.
junk in his trunk.
Back and crack. I think you've heard you use the term before, Paul.
Yeah.
Back to crack.
You also suffer from this debilitating.
I do.
Illness, right?
Eggs and a
Yeah.
hanky syndrome. It's a very debilitating. It does make things very not comfortable to sit on.
Oh, sit on a bench. Probably nightmares
you
for
see,
you.
I'm
Yeah.
sitting in a pregnancy chair now because it's the only thing soft enough to cradle my hip bones because there's really no ass back there. So
You got
yes.
no ass. All right, so that's one theory.
Yes.
So there is another theory that states that Paul never intended the beanbag to be a chair at all, but he was just really shitty at taxidermy.
Another possibility.
Basically, he fucked around with it for several hours trying to get it to stay in a saber-toothed tiger shape, but it never would, and inadvertently discovered that it had some utility as pretty much the world's worst chair, if we're honest, because beanbag chairs do kind of suck.
They suck, but
Hey,
better than the floor.
they're a cultural artifact, and it is better to sit on the floor. I'll give them that.
I mean, I would say,
So,
according to the Parky mindset, as I know it, why not both? Like, maybe he did start trying to stuff a saber-toothed tiger or something, and it got all fucked up, and then, like anger, he like plopped down on it, like sat on it to destroy it, and found that it was the only thing that would cradle his delicate, back and crack, and thus
derriere.
Right.
Yes, it's derriere.
So I would say that it's possible that both may be true in this instance.
Oh.
Because it definitely sounds Parky-ish,
So this is the first known bong.
Yeah.
Actually carved by Thag Parky roughly 3 years before his death, which he died at the age of 20, which is pretty old for a caveman, actually.
Oh, yeah. That's way up there.
So in those times, in order to smoke weed, what you had to do is you had to light an entire marijuana field on fire, and then the entire village would stand near it and hyperventilate. This is pretty dangerous. A lot of people, passed out and burned to death.
Oh.
A lot of people got lost in the smoke, wandered aimlessly into the woods, never to be seen again.
Sure.
So Thag Parky saw that this was an inefficient and wasteful and dangerous and inconvenient way to imbibe marijuana, and so he carved the first rudimentary bong. And this might be
a real innovator.
This might not be the very first bong created by Thag Parky, but this is a bong created by Thag Parky.
If you look, today we even benefit from this invention.
Right. Now, this bong is pretty, primitive by modern standards, but nonetheless was a huge leap forward in cannabis consumption technology.
I mean, this is absolutely lines up with what I know about the Parky clan. So,
and you see here that you have almost this bearded figure, like he's smoking out of a variation of his own.
Yeah, but almost like his ancestor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like that or his ancestors. This is a really impressive piece. And for me, the first bong ever, you really have to hand it to Thag Parky. The beanbag chair, that might have been a misfire. But the second time was
it shows the level of like craftsmanship and artistry. Like it wasn't enough for him to just make a bong. He felt the need for it to be decorative and something that the other members of his tribe would look at with envy.
Yeah,
the beginning of an artisan. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, Thag Parky did die before he could invent his third invention. He was not yet completed with work on the salt shaker. He actually had a working schematic on his cave wall of the invention, but he was still trying to solve the problem how to get the salt in the shaker in the first place. So
a tough problem.
He understood the general principle. What the problem was, he was trying to get the salt in the holes on the top somehow. So he'd kind of like cup his hand and shit. Just nothing would work. It was great for getting the salt out of those holes, but it wasn't great for stuffing them in. And obviously, you can't carve a hole in the bottom because
the salt
just falls off.
So he didn't figure out a screw system.
So he didn't figure out the whole screwing mechanism. That wasn't going to come around for a fucking while.
Of course.
But maybe it would have been invented sooner if Thag Parky had been able to really put his mind to the problem. But unfortunately, he did die shortly after, while he was working on the salt.
Does anything
shaker.
know about his death, TJ? How did that party go?
Basically, so it's his death. Unfortunately, a little unfortunate. Kind of a friendly fire situation. He was actually killed by a troop of hunters who mistook him for a small mammoth. A little baby mammoth.
That is tragic, and that sounds like a very Parky way to die as well.
Doesn't it?
Yes. Because you could almost imagine me in the forest getting shot by somebody who thought I was a big, shaggy wildebeest or something, right?
I mean,
Is that a deer? Fire!
I suppose.
Oh, no! It was Paul!
I suppose that could happen. You just never know.
Poor Thag, man. Cut down
luckily
in his prime.
There's no mammoths. I mean, like, I would say this is an ancestor you can have some pride in. Like he invented some shit. He changed some shit.
Almost had the salt shaker, had the
Yeah.
beanbag chair. I mean, not a great invention, but still an invention.
I mean, we
And of
use it to
course,
this day. I mean, it's still
an
around.
invention still used even in
Obviously, the bong is the highlight of his career
of
as an
course.
inventor, for
And,
sure.
Every time I take a rip, and from now on, I'll have to you think Thag Parky, and it's like, man, if all those millennia ago he hadn't thought this up, how would I be getting stoned?
Good point.
All right, well,
You're
it's
welcome, I guess,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
it's time to move on to our next Parky. This is we're going to talk about Pontius Parky. This is not Pontius Parky here. This is he was actually the shortest reigning Roman emperor. This here is Gordian the First, Gordian the Second, who history books, a lot of history books anyway, will tell you these guys were the shortest reigning Roman emperors,
Not so.
jointly ruling over the empire for a scant 21 days before Gordian the Second was killed in a battle, and Gordian the First committed suicide, grieving for his son. But they jointly ruled the empire for 21 days. Yet there was an imperial reign so minuscule that most historians just ended up overlooking it completely. And that is the reign of Pontius Parky.
The noblest Roman of them all.
That is right. Look at him. God fucking bless him. Look at him.
Damn. Look at this man titties. Look at that gut. I mean, like, look at it, just segmented, but in a pleasant way.
Yeah. And, he had no problem just kind of sitting around naked. He didn't care. He had no shame about it.
He got rid of this part of his beard. He had just kind of had like here.
It looks like he had the Roni nips too. Like, look, it's very similar
Yeah. I mean,
to the way that I'm laid out.
Exactly.
Shit.
Pontius.
Sorry about the McDonald's.
Endorse McDonald. Well, that's how you got there.
Let's see what you're missing out on, plebs.
You dumb fucking simp.
Cut this man's dick! Show for intellectuals only. Get out, plebs!
Deep fat fried. Deep fat fried.